start recording now. I should have recorded that then, but never mind, that's all right.
I'm assuming everyone is okay with recording. Can everyone nod so I can see agreement or not? Okay, they are. Oh, there's Efrat and Carmen. Oh, there's a few others.
Fantastic. Yeah, I've just been sending him an email. So.
Okay, excellent. So we'll go around the room and just get you to do your bits. It's going to be a bit stilted, but I think we'll work with how we go. So we might start with Helen.
Thanks, Jo. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Oh, okay. I haven't got three things, but anyway. Okay, Helen Widdop-Quinton. I'm at Vic Uni. Hello, everyone. I work with EfS at Vic Uni, and I don't really work that much in sustainability and environmental stuff in my teaching. That's my sort of research interest areas. But in terms of teaching, I work in health and wellbeing areas. So I kind of sneak the connections to nature in there and a little bit on those sorts of things. But so I'm here really to connect and share and find out ideas and that sort of thing. So that's really only one thing that I could think of so far.
Terrific. That's fine. Thank you, Helen. Snowy.
Hi. I'm from JCU. I'm in Cairns, Canada, and I teach now, because we've all been moved around, I'm in the undergraduate. So at the moment I'm teaching third years and fourth years who are doing Bachelor of Education in primary and secondary. And next semester I'll be teaching first years Foundations of Sustainability. So it's a core first year subject. And so my interests are really at the moment around obviously the embedding sustainability work that we've been doing. And also in the last couple of years, I've been really involved. I've been kind of doing action research into my own pedagogy in the first year sustainability subject. So I'm kind of really curious about the sustainability pedagogies that a few people like Sterling and Cotton have been writing about. And also directly related to the sharing ideas from lectures and shoots, for me, it's also, I'm wondering now that I've kind of been looking at embedding different types of pedagogies in my sustainability subject, I'm wondering how I can start to, what I can take away to embed with the pedagogy. Essentially, you know, we talk about curriculum pedagogy and in the professional subjects. So yeah, that's it. Thanks.
Terrific. Thank you. Francis and Sue.
Hi from Armidale. We're both at UNE here. I am a science teacher educator who has kind of moved into the area of sustainability. I currently teach, well, I nominally teach into primary and secondary, though primary seems to be taking up most of my teaching hours at the moment. And one of the units that I inherited that was developed by Julie Kennelly, that a lot of you will probably know, is Primary Environmental Science for Sustainability, and it's the second of two core science units for the BEd primary students and people doing allied kind of degrees. So that's what I teach and what I do, and I do a bit of research along those lines as well in pre-service teacher education and sustainability and nature and various things. I guess what I would like while I'm here is to foster relationships with other people doing similar things, to share ideas about teaching and resources, be involved in research possibilities as well. Okay, thanks Jo. Thanks Fran. Sue Elliott here. I'm at UNE as well. I've been here for the last just over a year now. I teach into the Bachelor of Early Childhood Primary and the Bachelor of Education Early Childhood Teaching. At the moment, I don't have any direct responsibilities for teaching in sustainability as an area, but certainly I weave sustainability through whatever I'm doing in early childhood education in the units that I do teach.
There's three areas that I'm interested in. One that I've already canvassed with Alison and also with Leanne Grogan, who was on the Zoom last time we spoke about early childhood, and that's the mapping of units that lend themselves to sustainability within early childhood degree programs. I'm very conscious of the great work that Joe Ferreira and Snowy and Bob have done, but that has been really very much primary focused, and I'd like to see some of that work, and particularly mapping of where it is in early childhood courses. And just as a bit of background, at the moment, since 2012, sustainability has been a compulsory unit in the Diploma of Children's Services at the TAFE level. So to me, the universities are way behind. If it's already compulsory in TAFE, what are the universities doing? So that's my benchmark to work towards, I guess. I'm also interested, like Snowy, in looking at pedagogies that we use at a tertiary level for engaging students with sustainability, and certainly some sort of online forum to share those ideas. I know we all get caught up in our own busyness, but there's always some great ideas around to share. And I'd just like to revive something that we looked at RMIT a few years ago, Joe. We were trying to work on some sort of tertiary EfS pedagogy type text. I don't know if you recall that, and it sort of didn't go anywhere, but to my knowledge, I haven't found anything that would that covers that area, that offers something of a handbook for people who are not necessarily coming from a science or sustainability background. They have a handbook, a practical handbook of ideas of how to take sustainability into other disciplines in a university context. So that's what I'm interested in.
Great, thank you, Sue. And taking us back down memory lane of work that we forgot about.
Yeah.
Sam, you're next on my screen. Would you like to introduce yourself and your ideas, please?
Sure. Hi, everybody. Can you all see me? Because I can't see anybody. So I'll have to be on my best behaviour, because you can see.
We can see you though, so I think everyone can see you.
Yes.
Okay, lucky you. Look, I'm teaching at Sydney Uni in a very specialised teacher course for Indigenous students who want to become secondary history teachers, and these are mature age students, so it is very specialised. It's also block release, so it's a bit different, and there's also ways to much more common and standard ways of teacher ed. But my interest in sustainability education is sort of a bit, well, I'm part of a small group here at Sydney Uni doing what we, in a very over-the-top manner, call curriculum for the Anthropocene. And we're influenced by a whole bunch of different people in that. But one of my approach is to look at get an idea of what is happening in terms of the actual climate change, the actual global warming, the Anthropocene and all its features, and to, I guess, take that very seriously and make the point that our teaching, and in this case in teacher ed, needs to somehow be informed by those things. And there's some very significant cognitive issues in what's happening in our responses to this. So it does get, I'm afraid, it does get into a philosophical sort of area. But on the other hand, I have noticed that in the sustainability literature that is circulated through this network, for example, some of the stuff Joanne circulated for this meeting, there's talk about system-based change, and there's talk about things that make a big difference, and some of the stuff Colin's circulated about values and some changing mainstream, and I think some of those things are very hard to do, but I think unless we start to do them, at least approach them, then we won't get very far in really, training up teachers. Now, I was very happy to read a great paper, which one of the URLs I put up for this group was Margaret Somerville's and Monica Green's paper, Place and Sustainability Literacy in Schools and Teacher Ed. And I think it's a great example, a great case study, and this paper only talks about the first stage of this project, but it to my mind it does exactly what I've found difficult to get my head around, is how you actually get into these deeper sort of areas.
Yeah, thank you.
And quite disruptive areas for them. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Bob. That's we'll actually put up those URLs that you sent through to Alison on the website. We're going to create a little space so that we can start doing that sharing, because that is a theme that's coming across in terms of people's interests. So thank you for that, and the idea again of linking into some earlier work and that idea of systemic change in institutions, which is a theme that's starting to come through people's topics. Thank you for that. And maybe you afterwards or offline, Alison can try and work out why you can't get vision too, because we can see you definitely. So it'd be good if you could see us as well. Alison?
Sam, have you clicked on the video?
I've touched everything that looks active on my iPad here, and nothing seems to get. I'm really glad I've got the sound, but nothing seems to. In the settings, there's, it's somehow it thinks I'm running the meeting.
Well, when we put the recording on, you'll see that we could all see you. So.
Right. Okay.
All right. So next person with Alison, we've got Anthony. So Anthony, do you want to take the floor and share a little bit of thinking with us?
Thank you, Joan. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks to Alison for inviting me to be part of this network. I'm a sessional staff member here at La Trobe in the Outdoor and Environmental Education Department, and I'm also doing a research degree on how alpine outdoor education can contribute to a sustainable future for Australia, thinking about the idea of alpine islands. And I also do a lot of work with primary and secondary teachers as part of the Resource Smart Schools program, which is the Victorian version of the Australian Sustainable Schools Initiative. So coming from working and running a lot of teacher professional learning workshops around sustainability there. And the three things I thought about that a network could provide would be obviously to enable easy connections between practitioners and researchers. So in any way, however you see, whether your blend of work is mainly research or mainly teaching or whatever else. So there's obviously those connections. Then enabling everyone of the network to assist others in the network with their own individual work at their own workplace or with their own projects. So that's the can you help me kind of situation. And then the third thing I thought was, well, is there a possibility at a later stage for there to be a joint project amongst the network which grew out because of the strength of the network and the relationships that come from growing together? So that's what I put down and I sent through to Alison for this. So thank you, and it's good to see everyone online.
Thank you. All right, next on my screen, we've got a JC O'Brien. Who's that? The mic's mute though. And we can't see anyone.
That will be Julie O'Brien. So I might send her an email and just say, and Carmen as well, and say their mics are muted. Carmen, can you hear us? Yes?
Yeah, I can hear you. I muted my microphone so you don't get all the noise.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So Carmen, do you want to take the floor and share with us?
Sure. I'm Carmen Primo from the University of Tasmania. I'm actually more a sustainability officer than an academic, but I also teach marine conservation and marine biosecurity casually, and so I was interested in the network and what it can offer. I can offer. I haven't done my homework though. And I don't have three things, but I suppose for me the two key works will be sharing and collaboration, and that's what I really would like to get and offer from this network.
Thank you. Thank you very much and welcome. Next on the screen, I've got EfRat.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
I'm from Victoria University, and I teach at the Bachelor of Education and the Master of Education. The past 2 years, Helen and I participated in a working group with the aim of developing and implementing sustainability education within the education courses that are offered here. So we were successful in getting off the ground in 2015 a new sustainability unit that is being taught now for the first time at the College of Education. So the title of the unit is Sustainability Education from Theory to Practice. And hopefully in 2016, with the new accreditation process, we'll have units at the bachelor level as well. So this is a big change at VU, and I'm very much looking forward for sharing ideas and learning from other colleagues how to best implement sustainability education within tertiary setting.
Great. Thank you very much, EfRat. Good to see you again. Next person I've got on screen is Rebecca, and your mic is mute, so you'll need to unmute it. Thank you.
Hi, look, I've only just come in, so I'm not sure what
Oh, Rebecca, I'm just sending you an email, so that's great.
Rebecca, I'll just recap for you. What we're doing is, sorry, my name is Josephine Lang, because I don't know you, so we're going to have to introduce at Deakin. And what we're asking is for everyone to basically quickly introduce where their background is, and then also to think about why it is that they're sitting here on a Friday afternoon and wanting to be in this hub. So what are your expectations? What are your vision? What are your hopes? What are your dreams for this network? And then what we're going to do is hopefully distill from all the lists of ideas what are the common things that we might be able to set ourselves as a way of working out what our purpose is. So are you able to give us well, you'll be able to introduce yourself, but would you be able to give us a couple of ideas of why you've decided to join us this afternoon?
Yeah, sure. I'm Rebecca Miles from La Trobe University at Albury-Wodonga. My background in relation to environmental ed and environmental ed in teacher education is through honours and PhD research. And I suppose what I'm hoping to get out of today really is just to, I suppose, reconnect in with the teacher education. At the moment, what I'm teaching doesn't really have any connection to environmental ed. So, you know, I would like to, I suppose, keep in the field as much as I can and, yeah, see how it goes.
Okay, great. Now, I think we've got through everyone.
What about Tonya? Have you done one, Tonya?
Oh, yes, sorry. Tonya.
I don't think Liz has as well. I'm just going through the names that are on the top.
Me either. I better say something as well, I guess.
Yeah.
But
all right.
You go first.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm from UWS, along with people like Margaret Somerville and Son that you just spoke about. We're in the theme group called Sustainability for Centre of Educational Research. And we have a whole raft of PhD and master's students who are doing various topics on sustainability across the lifespan, so from zero to wherever on that lifespan. Just a quick potted history of me. I probably feel like an imposter because I'm outdoor education. That's been my life for probably 30 years. So there's people like Anthony and Alison that are in this area, but I think it's time that we coalesce and the two can actually have a united front and strengthen, you know, us on a mission. What I'd love to get out of this, just to answer it very quickly, is to get this website curated so that it is a really easy landing platform for people who can then go to whatever resource they would like. And just as Son said, wading through that dense material is, you know, why are we all doing it separately? Why can't it be done for us and we can just go to one landing spot? So that's my aim.
Excellent. Thank you, Tonya. Liz, sorry, I forgot that you're there and you're on screen. So thanks, Tonya, for reminding us. Liz, would you like to say hello?
Good afternoon, everybody. I feel like a bit of an imposter as well because I'm not actually, directly in teacher ed, but I was teaching at CQU for 11 years in the business and management courses, and through my own action research, embedded sustainability in a variety of different courses. We've done a lot of research on that in my courses at CQU, and we've also expanded to other universities to see how people learn and what works and what doesn't work, and how people shift and how they don't shift. So my interest is in the pedagogy, the practice of sustainability education. And my particular interest is in how people teach it at the tertiary level, which is where there's not as much interest as there could be. And so they're teachers as well. My main interests for being included in this group is for collaboration and for sharing our knowledge and our experiences and our resources, and potentially also to look at doing some joint research, joint publications, joint initiatives as a group of teachers, teaching other teachers and also teaching students. And I'm also just started a PhD with EfS at VU looking at education for sustainability at tertiary ed. Thank you.
Congratulations on that big milestone as well. So there's a couple of you that are starting that journey.
Thank you.
Okay, Alison.
Well, let me see. As Tonya said, I've worked in outdoor education for, I don't know, about 20 years, and I've also worked in teacher education throughout that time. But for the last 5 or 6 years, I've only worked in secondary teacher education. So my interest in sustainability really came about through my work in outdoor environmental education. But now that I've been involved in research with sustainability, I guess my perspective is much broader than that now. And what I'm finding with our pre-service teachers in schools is that they're increasingly being expected to teach something relating to sustainability. So that's a very practical reason, I think, for teacher education courses to be addressing sustainability and in a cross-curricular way, as well as perhaps within disciplines. And I think that for me, one of the issues is the fragmentation that nearly everybody has been mentioning, in that there are people all over Australia doing bits and pieces, and even within our own institution doing bits and pieces, but there doesn't seem to be a coherent framework even on an institutional level. And at La Trobe we have 3 essentials, and sustainability is one of them, and it's supposed to underpin all the undergraduate courses, and we're slowly working towards that. But I think it's a challenge, and a very important one. So I would like to see this network, firstly as a way of connecting with people, just finding out who's involved in the area, who's interested in it, what are people doing, what ideas do they have, and so on. But also then I'd like to see us working towards some kind of reasonably coherent approach to sustainability in teacher education. That might be a big ask, but I guess it's something that I suppose, Joe Ferreira and Bob Stevenson and all of their work, and you, Snowy, and the people that have done a lot of research in that area seem to be trying to move towards a systemic approach, and it makes sense, but it's obviously not easy. Yeah, I think that would be ultimately something that I'd like to see the network perhaps discussing and perhaps trying to move towards. And I'd also like to see some joint research projects coming out of these networks. And I think we don't have to be all doing the same thing either. We can do whatever we want within this network. We might have groups of people working on different things. It's really quite open, but quite exciting, I think, at least to even just be talking to each other.
Thank you, Alison. And I think that covers everyone around the screen online, except for me, because I just thought I haven't done mine a bit either yet, so I better do my bit. So when I was thinking about what it is that I found exciting to join the group, and I think it's really clicking into some of the themes that have been coming up, and what Alison was just saying is that I think I'm just wondering how we as teacher educators could get more coherence in our approaches, and I suppose, tap into that idea of how do we actually get our institutions to change? What's the systemic approaches that we could have a look at? And Bob's work has obviously started that. There's a lot there that we can inform, but not. But I don't think we've actually used it enough across the system as a whole nationally to learn from it and work out how we might go forward. So I suppose I'm trying to work out how as a network we might be able to actually embed or maybe manifest that in our own institutions, and what does that mean within our own institutions, because we know that there's politics within our own institutions that will be different to others. So how do we actually do that? The other thing that I was thinking about was the idea of, well, what's our role as in teacher education faculties? And most of us are there, but there are a few that are on the fringes through their interest and enroll in their own roles. I'm just wondering what our role is in ongoing teacher education in the area of education for sustainability. So this would probably link to some of the work. I don't know how it's on the website, our hub site, the links to the Education for Sustainability and Australian Curriculum Corporation that I know Diane Bowes had actually talked to at the A2E2 conference in November last year. So those kind of questions about how we actually, what is our role as a faculty to actually work in that area. And I'm thinking not only of initial teacher education, but also what's our role in in-service teacher education, so the ongoing career lifespan. We don't often dabble in that area, and the kinds of things that I'm thinking about that is the idea of that university/community or schools partnerships. How can we actually use that, utilize that, which is embedded in all of our manifestos in our universities to work with schools and our communities. But how does it actually look like on the ground? What do we learn from each other to be able to support those partnerships, and how does that then inform our own pedagogical and curriculum practices? So they're the kinds of things that I was thinking of. And then lastly, because I was working on something else within our own institution and looking at how we're thinking about embedding education for sustainability within the institution across faculties. And I started dabbling into that at the policy level, and I realised there's a 2014 UNESCO or a UN report on what's happened with the UN decade, what happened with that. And that's when I kind of stumbled across, and I don't know how many others have known, and I noticed that Karen Malone was on the list to come in, so I was hoping that she'd come in because I'm sure she would have had some more insights as well. But what we're moving on to is the idea of actually the UN is thinking about the next 10 years and setting up the agenda that we're actually going to fuse the Millennium Development Goals with the sustainability agenda. So there's going to be these new things called UN Sustainable Development Goals. And I'm just wondering, well, what does that do and inform our work? And that could potentially lead not only to national focused research projects, but maybe tapping into some international work that we could think about doing. So they're kind of the big picture things, a bit like Alison, probably too big to have on a Friday afternoon, but with a glass of wine, I'm sure we can think of ways we might be able to do that. So what we've done now over the last 3/4 an hour or so, we've actually just said hello and shared some ideas, and I'd really like to open the forum now for people just to digest what they've heard. Hopefully you're like me, scribbling madly some of the ideas and the connections that people were having, and just want to open up the floor now for people to just discuss and just some comments and observations, some reflections, connections that you've made while you were listening to all that, so that we can see what we want to try and do is work out what our, I suppose, not our terms of reference, but what is our reason for living? Why do we want to be in this hub? How are we going to breathe life into it? What's going to make us gel? So I'll stop talking and let people say things.
Can I make a suggestion? Just in terms of, so the online platform, obviously it's one way of connecting, but every time there's a conference, if you made sure there was time set aside for this network to meet in person, whether it's during the day of the conference or at night at the bar, at a drink, over dinner or whatever, but that way then to make sure there were face-to-face interactions of a real nature with food and or drink, I think would help sustain this network. And those relationships building then allows us to deal with transactions that, you know, as in the joint projects or whatever else. So Zoom will be great, but I think if definitely planning in the opportunity when a group of people are together to grab those.
Yeah.
Thank you, Anthony.
I think that's a great idea because, you know, having something gel really is about communication and enhancing the communication between us, and ways that we can do that. And face-to-face at a conference and things is great. But do we have each other's email addresses and basic things like that? Is that...
That would be... Can I just ask a question about that, Helen? I was hoping we could put them onto the website under the Teacher Education Hub, just names and emails, but what do people think about that? I mean, I guess if you didn't want it on, you could tell me straight away, but if they're there, then we can see who's interested and we can contact people easily. Would that be okay to do that?
Yep. Fine with me.
Great.
All heads are nodding yes in the affirmative.
Oh, good.
It might be actually a good space, and to build on also not only what Francis just said, but also what Anthony just said, the idea of we have to get to know each other in some cases. Can we use the website? Is there a place where we can actually set up our little profiles and put the little spiel about our research interests and what we're hoping to connect with, in case people go, oh, that's what I want to do? So is there a little space we can do that in?
Yeah, I think so, and that's a fantastic idea. So I'll find out how to do that and send an email around about how to do it, and then people can start putting that on. That's really good.
And that way you don't have to worry about setting up emails, because in the profile there will be the contact details, and people can put up their own emails in that.
Okay, that'd be great.
Good.
Sue here, just following up on Anthony's idea about conferences, maybe there's a few people in the group going to Week in Gothenburg mid-year.
Yeah.
Might be useful for a few of us to get together there if that's feasible.
Yeah, that'd be great. I'm hoping to go. So
yeah, I'll be there.
Great.
Lucky people.
Yeah, okay. Excellent.
Tanya's going. Anyone else?
I wish.
Everyone else is wishing.
Oh, Karen's here.
I'm here.
Ah, hello, Karen.
Hi. Hello.
You might have to get her to introduce herself now, Jay.
Yeah, we'll give her a few minutes.
Right.
Karen, what we've just done is we've introduced ourselves briefly, and then what we asked to do was to share our 1 or 2 or up to 3 ideas of what we're hoping for from the network.
Yeah.
And now what we're doing is, because everyone's had a go at doing their 5 minutes in the sun, we're now trying to consolidate and trying to make the connections of that, and just try and work out what the commonalities are that might able to do that. So just to give you the start of the conversations that we've now starting to pull out as themes is the idea of not only having the Zoom, but thinking about how we can create opportunities for face-to-face that will support it. And then we went on to the idea of setting up a profile pages up for each of us to share what our research interests are, but also what our teaching interests are, so that we can connect and share that way. And then soon the week conference that are coming up, and there's a couple that are going there, and that they might use that as a face-to-face forum to connect as well. So maybe what we could do, and this was probably coming out of Son's contribution, the idea that whatever the conferences that people are going to that are related to this hub, what we might do is get people to find a space to, I think he mentioned, to create a discussion board, and you could put up that conference, and so people could actually say, yes, I'm going to that, and then work out how to hook up once you're at that place.
Mm-hmm.
So that might be a way to do that. Okay, now that I've kind of given Karen 5 seconds to think about, do you want to introduce yourself and give us some of our ideas of what you're thinking about for the hub?
Yep, okay. My name is Karen Malone. I'm a Professor of Education at University of Western Sydney in the Centre for Educational Research. I also am a research leader for the sustainability strand. We have 3 strands: globalisation, equity and sustainability. We have around 6 staff who are in that area. Myself and Kamara Ward are both in early childhood. Then we also have Son, who's sort of primary/early childhood. We have Tonya, who sort of works across all of those. Also Margaret Somerville, and another Jane Hunter, who also works in primary sort of sustainability area. So for us, in the sustainability theme for CER, we're really, really interested in how we can be part of the conversation around how to increase the networking and partnerships around the universities. You know, we often feel quite isolated. There's no, you know, we've only 6 of us in the sustainability theme out of a centre with, you know, 30 staff. We're actually often always in the minority. So, you know, we're always sort of pushing against it to make sure that the things that we're interested in or the research that we'd like to do is sort of up on the agenda. So I think, you know, being able to have that sort of like-minded group of other people in other universities doing that sort of work, that would be good. We're also very keen, I mean, the university as a whole is very keen to support sustainability, and we're a UN regional network, you know, centre of excellence, and we have a sustainability group which are more sort of environmental science style of sustainability. But, you know, and there's been a lot of discussion about being a much more sort of university focused, but there's nothing really there, you know, recycling groups and a few, you know, green cup days or something, but really how the university is addressing it in its teaching and research in a more strategic manner is not really happening. So, you know, we as a group have a real commitment to try and think how we can be part of, you know, changing that agenda, getting that agenda going in a more sort of educational focus. See, we are a centre of higher education, but we're not often looked at as being that strategic partner in that work. So, you know, I think how we can learn how other universities are doing that, or the struggles and challenges that other universities are facing, staff, you know, and how we can all work together to help each other, I think would be really useful for us.
And I think that would make a very natural point of entry or connection with La Trobe Uni, wouldn't it, Anthony? Yes. And Alison, because you're going for the full-on sustainability across your programs.
Yes, definitely. And I think it's interesting what you were saying about addressing things on a, I suppose, more political level and policy level, because with teacher education, it's operating on so many levels. So I suppose we could have different groups with different foci, because one of the issues I think for us here is you can't address every single level yourself. So having more people, like you said, with other experiences or similar experiences, I think, as Karen was just saying, I think will be really helpful in terms of strategies, strategies for even getting people, you know, within our institution to be interested in sustainability or to think that they have some connection with it, you know, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
There is a definite theme that people are, when I was looking at people's profiles as they were going through and describing what they're doing and their work, the notion of how people are interpreting teacher education, there is the traditional conventional way where we talk about initial teacher education, but then we've got the early childhooders. We've got those that are talking about working in tertiary education, teacher education as well. So we probably need to define as a group what we want to focus on, and there seems to be some interest in keeping the layers there. So it might mean that we will have groups within groups, or I think a few people have mentioned the idea of research opportunities with focused projects, and they might take on different elements of the layers so that we can keep the synergies between the layers, but also to use the support from each other and learn from each other across the systems instead of fragmenting off into little other subgroups. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how we handle that. But we have got another person that's joined us, Catherine. Hi, Catherine. Would you like to introduce yourself? And we did send an email around saying that if you could think about sharing one or two different things that you are hoping for in terms of the network. Are you able to share that with us now?
Yeah, sure. Hello, everyone. Hi, Snowy. Good to see everyone again. Sorry I was late. I had a lot of trouble hooking in. So thanks, Alison, for sending me the new invite. That seems to have worked.
Great.
My background or my position at Murdoch University is that I'm actually in what used to be the school formerly known as environmental science, which is now veterinary and life sciences. So so a lot of people that look at Murdoch think there's no education for sustainability there, but actually there is. So like so many of us, it's hidden amongst the layers of disciplinary labels and targets. So one of the things I really, really want from this network is a way that we can, like the website is starting to establish, a way that we can identify each other and essentially a place for people to go when they're looking for what's happening in EFS in tertiary institutions, because that has not been accessible. A classic example is the paper that came out in AJEE a couple of years ago, which had searched university websites to identify if anyone was doing EFS, and WA came back with a big fat 0, because we all know how wonderful university websites are at being searchable and actually functional, like 0. So those are two of my kind of pet hates. Even though I'm in the School of Environmental Science, I actually teach in the School of Education a unit called Education for Sustainability, which is actually about training people to develop, design, implement and evaluate education for sustainability programs across all levels in our society. So it's targeted at schools, at industry, at community groups, friends of groups, bushland groups, in state government, and also in voluntary non-for-profit or non-government organisations. So, you know, for me, we've been running that for 14 years at Murdoch. This year it's evolving. Been an elective, but it has been a big part. It's been a required elective for a number of programs at Murdoch. And, you know, I'm not a marketer. I'm not out to market the unit. None of us are. We're there to teach. But I think we do need a better, more efficient way of communicating what we're all doing, because so many people are doing so many amazing things and we could share and learn from them. And I'm really sorry I'm late, because you've probably all said amazing things and I've missed it all.
It's been recorded, so you'll be able to go back and replay.
Oh, that's great. Thanks, Joe.
All right, let's open it up again to continue the conversations of how people are building some connections. We've got about 10 more minutes, so we might as well use time wisely.
Can I jump in there?
Yeah, go for it, Sam.
I'm in Sydney, and I would love to visit the mob at University of Western Sydney, if that's a possibility. My particular interest in this sustainability education is to bring in Indigenous knowledges. And number one, I was wondering if anyone else is involved in that. I know Margaret is at Western Sydney, just from reading some of her papers. But maybe that's one way to do what Anthony suggested, at least get one bit of face-to-face here in Sydney. So if it's, maybe I should contact the people at Western Sydney separately to make a time.
Yeah, well, look, definitely, Sam. This is Karen here. Yeah, send me your email address and I'll let you know. We have a reading group every second week where we get together for an hour and have just sort of like a lunch either at Bankstown or Penrith campus, where we'll be talking about sustainability issues and things that people are interested in, talking about, you know, the latest readings or latest things that are being released. So, and we're certainly welcoming anyone who's interested around the area to, you know, jump on board and be a part of that. And we also run many seminars.
Sounds terrific. Thanks, Catherine.
Yeah. So send me your email and I can put you on our mailing list of things that we're doing.
Great. And well, I'll come up but the other, a bit of a double whammy question, are any other people working in this Indigenous knowledge and sustainability area? It's, I don't know, I think this is one of Margaret's arguments is that in Australia, the Australian version of sustainability has to have some significant contact with Indigenous knowledge, Indigenous ideas.
Yeah.
Not that that's easy. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it's a simple thing to do, but that's the sort of area I've been working on for a year or so. So anyway, that's a particular interest of mine.
It is really important, Sam. I think it's something that's happening a lot in local government areas. Where I'm in Coburn in Western Australia, there's a really big Indigenous knowledge group that works with the local council, but we only tap into it in a really sporadic way, and we tend to tap into it through the formal education. Like there's a unit at Murdoch which is about Indigenous studies in the School of Education.
Yeah.
But it's not about sustainability, and yet there's obvious overlaps. So
that's right, and yeah, it ticks a number of boxes if you think about it. It's certainly outreach. It's but it could be, if done well, it could be a two-way process where Indigenous people and their knowledge inform some of our work as well.
Okay, thank you. So that sounds that we're already starting some of our one main key thing, which was sharing and connecting with each other. So we're kicking some goals here already. Other people, would you like to continue with connections, or what are other great ideas out of listening to everyone else?
One question that we've been grappling with at Victoria University, I'd be happy to, if I could raise it here and hear what other people has to say about it and your experiences. Our issue was whether sustainability education needs to be cross-curriculum infusion, implemented through infusion, some kind of a whole institute approach, or there needs to be separate courses or units devoted to that question. And when I was looking at the research, the evidence doesn't say much about it. I couldn't find real evidence that sort of cross-curriculum infusion works, but on the other hand, it seems to be the more accepted way. And I'm wondering what your experiences are with regard to this question.
Who'd like to take that one? That one, isn't that something we've been talking about for about 30 years?
Yeah, I'd say so, Joe. But you know what, Alpha? You know, one of the things is we've always said, it should be cross-curriculum because you can't sort of just talk about it in isolation. It's so connected to other things. But then when you do cross-curriculum, it seems to be marginalised and it just gets diffused. And so then it's so easy to ignore it and not include it. So then we say, well, we need to have a subject, so at least then we know it's there, So I think we've always sort of come to the assumption that you should, if you can, do both. Right. Have a single subject where you can really deeply engage with the issues of sustainability, but then also try and ensure that it becomes a cross-curriculum theme that is picked up in a similar way like Indigenous studies or technology or other areas might be part of, what's going on in more general subjects across a course as well. So that's been my experience. It's not always easy, and often I've always, even though I think cross-curriculum is a better way to go, I still fight always to get a subject because I just think otherwise it just doesn't get the credibility in a course program.
Are there good experiences that it works out there? Really good experience with cross-curriculum infusion has good outcomes, overall outcomes?
Yeah, well, that'd be interesting to hear about that, how you've managed to do that successfully, because it has always been a real challenge.
Yeah.
And I think there's also, for me, some questions about, is cross-curriculum, does it mean that, as it's sort of set up in the ACARA curriculum, that every subject can address it in some way or another? Or what about interdisciplinary approaches where you might really be drawing on knowledge from different disciplines and maybe even developing new knowledge? Like I think there's interdisciplinary, even transdisciplinary, maybe cross-curricular, and I think those are real challenges. And in a case study that I was working on, that there were humanities and science teachers working with outdoor education pre-service teachers, and the school was calling it a transdisciplinary approach, but really it wasn't, because I think nobody really knew how to actually go about that. So it was just a case of bringing people together and then them trying to muddle along and trying to, draw a little bit on each other's pedagogies and discipline knowledge to address sustainability. And that was fine. I mean, you've got to have a go, but to me, there's a lot of work that could be done there to really maximise some potential. This was a secondary school setting I'm talking about. Primary schools, maybe it's a bit easier.
Can I just share some of the research that I've come across in looking at EFS at different levels? And just coming back to your question, Efrat, my focus has been on the tertiary side, tertiary education, but I think the same principles apply pretty much at any level of education. It's maybe the pedagogies and the practice changes, but the principles are the same. And what appears to be the case is that the impact of the education gets stronger the deeper it is and the broader it is. So you can have successful shifts in people's understanding at the discipline level, so at the course level, and you can have deeper understanding as you go cross-curricular, and they all count. They just count in different ways according to where the student is on their journey to learning about sustainability. So as the courses become interdisciplinary, as the teaching becomes interdisciplinary and cross-disciplinary, then the learning gets deeper and deeper and deeper inside the person's head. So they all count, they just count in different ways at different times depending on where the student is at that time. And that's what the research has shown pretty much around the world.
Do you think that there's successful, or there's been much emphasis on teaching in that way in tertiary institutions in teacher education so far? Liz?
I'm not so familiar with what they're doing in teacher ed, but what my familiar, well, I've kind of looked at all of it, but I think teachers are just like any other learners. They've got to learn it themselves too before they can know how to teach it to others. So the gaps are in the way that the student teachers are being taught, but that's because the academics don't know how to teach for it either. So, and that's why I'm so interested in the teacher ed side, because they're the people who teach the teachers, and they don't necessarily know the best way to teach them either. But all these methodologies are important. It's not that a disciplinary approach doesn't work. It does work. It has a particular impact. And the broader and the more complex the teaching, the more broader and more complex is the learning. So they kind of match each other. You know, if you have an interdisciplinary or cross-disciplinary approach, that's going to have a huge impact on the learners, whether they're teachers or whether they're business students or whatever they are. And if you just have it in one course, that will be important too. They're all important. They just have different impacts, but they're all important and they're all necessary.
Yeah, I'd agree with that, Liz. In our experience, in schools, the work that Elaine's done in a number of different schools has shown that the teachers' perceptions, a lot like the work that Joe's been doing in the eastern states. Teachers' perceptions of sustainability as an extra thing and it being too difficult to fit in, and that's exactly the same wall that I've come across in the universities where I'm working in them, trying to incorporate stuff into other units directly or across programs, because it's too full, we can't fit another thing in, rather than perceiving sustainability as a vehicle through which they can deliver other learning and actually, you know, double up on your benefits, your learning outcome benefits. So and I completely agree with you, Liz, that if we can't work out how to engage and enthuse the educators in the university, then we're not modelling to the teachers that we're teaching how they can teach. And so it's just kind of this flow-on effect. It's kind of system thinking breakdown, or system thinking not working from the first to the... And really, we've been teaching ourselves for centuries how to think in little boxes. So we're talking about a pretty big change in the way we do things. That's just my perspective. And if you find out how to do it, I'd really love to know, because we've got a new unit that I'm right for next year called Sustainability Across the Curriculum.
That's what my research is about, actually, how we teach for it and how it works and whether it doesn't work and how the people learn about it. You know, it's a really, really interesting area. But Diane Chambers from Melbourne Uni, I think that's her name, has been doing some work with academics and looking at how they see sustainability from the disciplinary perspective. And what she's saying is that, you know what, let's not go for the gold standard straight away. Let's not try to ask academics to teach cross-disciplinary. Let's just get them to think about what sustainability means from their discipline first.
Yeah.
And then we can talk about cross-discipline.
Because they're also, everyone's so stressed, you know, everyone's so like, oh my God, I can't do another thing. I'm so pushed for time. And yeah, exactly, Liz. That's exactly right.
Can I just add, I think there's, I certainly agree with what's being said, and that there are multiple approaches. One of the things that attracts me about having a unit on sustainability is that you foster that depth of thinking among students, and you would hope that students would take that into other discipline areas and perhaps even educate their lecturers in some sense, raising those sustainability questions within other disciplines. So I can see some merit in that happening, rather than us trying to foster sustainability in our colleagues. If it comes from students and they're asking those questions, I see that as part of the mix too.
Yeah, that's a good point. Mm-hmm.
I'm just conscious of the time, and Alison did warn me that when the time comes, we'll all just disappear and it will shut down. So
I think that will be at 4:15. I think we've got 10 minutes.
10 minutes. So I just want to make sure that people have got a sense of raising their voices in terms of what they would like to do. But I thought I'd just take this time just to kind of coalesce. I've just looked at all my notes and tried to work out what it is that will make this hub click, and why are we here, sitting here on a Friday afternoon. And I think the key thing that's come out is the word collaboration. And then I've unpacked it into 3 different levels. So first one was the idea of finding each other and sharing practice. So to be able to do that, that was one of the main things that just kept on being repeated one after the other when people were sharing their interests in this hub. The second level was the idea of collaboration, and not only just connecting and networking, but actually learning from each other. So it's not just sharing practice for the sake of putting something on a website, but you actually want to actively engage with each other and learn. And we already had some people hooking up with each other and saying, all right, after this one, I'm going to meet up with you on different cases. And the idea that EFRAT just, yes, I've got an institutional problem here. Can I raise it with you, and what kind of solutions do you give me? And we just had a really animated conversation in about 7 minutes about, you know, something that's been gelling around and throwing around literally in 30 years. You know, do we go cross-curricular? Do we go interdisciplinary? Do we go single subject, and so forth? So that idea of learning is something that's come to me, surfaced from the conversations today. And the third thing that we can collaborate is the idea that there is some interest about potential for focused research projects that would come out, which may come out in little groups joining up together because of their interests. And then hoping, I think it was Anthony that said, maybe we start off in small groups, but eventually that we actually work as a group to work on a bigger project that will probably be a meta-analysis of somehow bringing us all together. So they're kind of the things that I have seen rise to the surface in listening for the last 50 minutes or so. So I thought I'd just bring that, because at the end of this meeting, for the people that couldn't come, we'll have this recording, but it would be nice to have not minutes, but maybe notes of key themes that came out of this this meeting, so that people have got a transcript or a executive summary, so to speak, so that they can point to it. So if I close off here in terms of my contribution, would people like to comment whether they think that is a fair summary of where we're going, or have I left things out, or would people like to add things or clarify or modify or add to those 3 points at this stage?
I guess the only thing I would perhaps add, but it might be as kind of a subset of the relationship and the learning, is a few people are very keen on their website, the way that is going to be
the conduit sort of for those processes, maybe.
Yeah, I see the website as the mechanism underpinning that. And so if we work out what our purposes are, then we can work out how our website might work for us and support those things, rather than just sitting there in isolation. So we'll make the website work for us. And I think we've already talked about the idea of setting up profile pages, which would be part of that first bit of finding each other. So thanks, Frances.
Can I just say too, sorry, Tonya, if we do create a website, can we make sure that it's dynamic? You know, it's not one of these websites that just becomes very, you know, there's information up there and bios, but there's actually no, you know, it's not changing, it's not moving, you know.
Yeah, that's the idea with the Sustain Ed's website, that we can, and also the handbook. The way that handbook is supposed to be developing is that Colin's thinking of, so the handbook is to support tertiary educators to progress sustainability in their various institutions. And Colin's idea, and I think it came from David Gibson actually, or a few others, is to have like a Wikiversity website where we can set up the framework, but then everybody can contribute to the content on it from their own experiences. So that would be part of the Sustain Ed website. But I agree, Karen, that the rest of it needs to be as dynamic as possible. So we need to make sure that it's very easy for any network members to post things. And at the moment it is a blog, so you can, but we need to probably just help people to understand how to use it, I suppose, initially, as well as having some, like once we start posting our profiles out, and I think that will be part of that process. People will start using it and looking at it anyway, but yeah.
Tanya?
Oh, look, what I was going to say, Jo, you've done a phenomenal job of sort of bringing it together with the main points. But on the topic of the website, who is actually the webmaster if we want to talk to that person?
For the Sustain Ed one, there's not really a webmaster. Colin set it up, but it's just a WordPress blog site. So I think we can I'm not quite sure if people have to be signed up or how. I know that some people have already replied to questions without signing up. So I think anybody can contribute to it.
Usually there's an administrator behind the scenes.
Yeah, that's Colin.
Okay, no worries. Thank you.
But I can do some administration too. In fact, I can do most of it. So if you need something to be done, and you can tell me, and then if I can't do it, I'll ask Colin.
Yeah. So can we connect the blog into a Facebook site? Can we get a Facebook site up and then connect it up? Because to me, that's the sort of generative way. I mean, emails is a bit sort of slow and old hat, but Facebooks these days, that are connected to WordPress, that means if someone puts something up there, it'll automatically come up as an alert if we're on, if we've got shared Facebook pages.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Thanks, Karen. Yeah, I'll talk to Colin and we can do that, I'm sure.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
I was just going to ask the question whether it might be possible to, when you're looking at the website, the SustainEd site, if it could be set up in such a way where we could, just go in and have a look and see which conferences are coming up, which research grants are coming up, which, I don't know, whatever, where the resources are. So it's kind of like a one-stop shop. You just go there and you click on whatever you're interested in and you just go.
Yeah, that's a great idea. We've got an upcoming events part where we've started to put things on, but I don't see any reason why we have to just put things on. Other people will know about things that hopefully you can put on, and we can build a whole list of things as they, as they're coming up. Yeah. So I guess the thing with that is to make sure that everyone can post them, not just us. Yeah. Yeah, that's good.
Cool.
Any other ideas like that?
Sounds good.
Apart from maybe a regular chat group or something, like if there was, because this is really helpful. Sometimes you don't actually know what you want to know until you actually have an opportunity to chat. And I know being in the West, we're such a different time frame to everybody else. It's often hard even with email. And when you're part-time too, you send an email and it's like 7 days later and you've totally forgotten what you were thinking. But yeah, I don't know what sort of options there would be for that sort of live chat occasionally.
Yeah, I think okay. Yeah, I think we can do anything. Anything we want to do, I think we can do. It's good.
Can I make one more suggestion, please?
Yeah.
I used to run a community of practice at CQU when I was there before I left, and I think it's still going for it was engagement for sustainability. So we looked at education, operations, curriculum, all sorts of aspects of sustainability. I'm wondering whether it might be possible to perhaps incorporate that kind of element here, where it's a community of practice where we have maybe a guest speaker or someone shares what they're doing, and then we can learn from each other. Because I know that when I listened to people talking today, I really wanted to know more about what they were doing, and I wanted to learn from what they were doing. So I don't know how you would organise those people to speak, or whether you would bring someone in to speak. Maybe you could get someone from government to talk about policy and someone else to talk about money, and I don't know, stuff like that.
Do you mean, like, say, put videos of people speaking on there, or what do you?
No, us speaking.
Oh, in real life?
Yeah, in real life. We could do a 10 or 15-minute presentation, and then people could ask questions about that, or you could invite people from outside this particular community and have them talking about opportunities for teacher ed, whether that's funding or whether that's policy issues or whatever it is. And then it becomes alive, and we really actively learn from each other, and we also learn from people outside. So that's what we were doing in our community practice, and that's the only reason why people were coming, because they were learning all the time.
Yeah.
Asking each other and inquiring. So that's just another suggestion. If you think that might fit in with this group, then it might be okay.
That'd be great. So Liz, could we, like, given that everyone's spread out around Australia, so if you were organising something, say where you are, could you record it and we could at least put it online for people who can't actually attend it, that sort of thing?
Oh, okay. What I was thinking about was we're all sitting remotely inside this virtual space.
Yeah.
And I'm actually sitting inside my kitchen, so you can see my kitchen back there. So that's where I am now. And you're all sitting, I think, in your offices and lounge rooms and stuff. But it could be that one of us is doing something. I mean, we're all doing something interesting, but I'm particularly interested in hearing the stuff that you're doing, Catherine, for example. That unit, I'd like to know more about that unit. Now, if you wanted to share more about what you were doing in that unit, then you could maybe just sit and speak for 15 minutes or I don't know if you could set up your computer to show us the slides or something like that. And then we could have a conversation around that and learn from you.
Yeah.
Or if wherever you are, you had someone, I don't know, some contact that you knew from government or someone that you knew from funding, and you could get them to either come in physically or virtually from where they are, and then we have a live presentation that's recorded.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like what Karen was talking about, the UWS lunch meetings or whatever you had physically, and instead we'll have it virtually, and it would probably double up with, I think, something that Anthony said earlier on, and Catherine was talking about having that live chat group. So it would be a way to facilitate virtually a face-to-face thing. So we would need to ask participants to what would they be ready to present for 10 or 15 minutes and have an open discussion.
Or even the other way around, having something on the website or some network where we can email or post a question, does anybody know about, or I'm doing, is anyone interested? And then you could find out. And even if there's only one person interested, then maybe Liz and I can organise a separate chat or a separate Skype or something. But it's a way of finding out who wants to know what, I suppose.
Yeah, good idea.
But maybe we say that's part of the format, that when we come together for these hour sessions, that every time we have at least one 10 minutes presentation, dedicated to something more formal, where someone gives us some detail about something they're interested to share.
Yeah, that would be great.
The only problem is that the onus is on someone to organise a speaker. And when I was the chair of the Engagement for Sustainability Community Practice, I had to make sure that there was a speaker lined up. So there's a little bit of responsibility with that too, and particularly if people don't volunteer. Then you've got to tap people on the shoulder. Would you like to talk about or something like that? So, but you don't have to. You could just have a theme. It could be just a theme, Joe, something that you picked up, one of the initiatives, you could just pick up and have a discussion about that. But I'm just sharing my experience from running the COP for 2.5 years. What worked for us was having someone there that drew people, and then they wanted to know what was this about.
I'm just thinking whether this would work, because I know Alison and Karen know about this one. At our sustainability conference last year, we videoed all the presentations and they're all on YouTube. So perhaps we could make those links to your website.
Yeah.
And each year we're getting better at it, but at least it was a starting point last year.
Yeah, I think that would be really good, Tonya, because there's a wealth of valuable information amongst those presentations. Yeah, it'd be great. So can we organise that? For the links to go onto the website?
No problem.
Yeah.
All right, it's definitely past 4:15 in Melbourne time, so whatever it is, wherever you are, and it hasn't wiped us off, so obviously you can go on after the time, but unfortunately I have a 4:30 meeting, so I've got about 10 minutes to get myself organised for my next meeting, so I'm going to have to
pub,
say
Joe, or
I wish. No, not yet. But I'm just wondering, does someone want to take, Tony, do you want to take over, or do we want to sign out? Have we got to a natural...
Can I just check? Put thumbs up or thumbs down so we can see people. Do you want to stay on? If you want to stay on there, if you want to go, if you're ready to go like this, okay? Let me see around the screens. Well, down. It looks like, I reckon we might have had time.
It's Friday afternoon.
Yeah, that's fine. Good.
All right, well, in that case, we'll wrap it up. Thank you, everyone, for participating.
I'd love to stay, but I've got to go get my kids from school.
Oh, there you go. So there's lots of things going on. Thank you for participating. I think we've got our purposes sorted out. We'll put that in writing, and we'll Tonya and I and Alison will liaise with each other to try and work out how we're going to get this up and when, but we'll send you an email when that's done, hopefully in the next 2 to 3 weeks.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks for all the great ideas. It's really good.
Good weekend, everybody.
Bye-bye all.
How do we turn off?
I'll turn it off.
How do we get off now?
Have a good long weekend.